Welcome back. I was going to say welcome back, bitches, because it felt fun and playful, and me and Steph were debating if that was the right choice.
I think it's
Um,
acceptable.
can you say it?
Welcome back, bitches.
See, that sounds so cheery and so happy.
And I mean
Welcome
that
back.
in an endearing term. It means that you're part of our inner circle and we love you. And that's like a reclamation of the word that we have explored that we can call ourselves bitches. I'm always like, who is this bitch? She's fabulous.
Get in, bitch. We're going shopping. Get in, bitch. We're talking about pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
So here we are today. We have a beautiful episode on a foundation for deepening your pleasure. So today we're going to give you three free and simple tools to significantly increase your pleasure experience. Does that sound good?
Yeah, baby. Sounds beautiful.
This is truly the anchor to both my own practice and I know for Steph as well. This is one of the foundational pieces that we teach all of our clients. And this is a large part of even Steph's facilitation in live retreats. This is just a huge piece to your general well being. So, even if you don't want to apply this to your sex life, you can go ahead and apply this to really any area of your life where you want to deepen into the experience of it. Don't you feel like that's fair to say?
Yeah, and I think the most profound things in life are often the most simple. And as humans that live up in our minds, we overcomplicate things and overanalyze and think things must be really complex. And actually, the whole foundation of really everything that we do and everything that you and I teach and share, Jenna, actually is coming back to the basics. It's coming back to the most simple parts of ourselves. And often, some of these practices that are the most simple and easy to do and free and don't require anything, you can wake up in the morning, just open your eyes, sit up in your bed, and you have everything that you need to tap within to then enhance and increase your pleasure and your connection. It doesn't have to be complicated. And this is what's so profound, but where people get caught up, like it cannot possibly be that simple. And we're here to tell you that it can be. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. There's going to be discipline and some devotion and exploration and some stickiness and maybe discomfort as well. However, follow what we're sharing here. Try it out. Do a little experiment on yourself for the next 7 days or 30 days and just be open to see.
Yeah. Approaching this with curiosity for how this is going to look for your own body and how this is going to show up for you, and deepening into the present moment is going to be the key here with this practice and with these tips. So, Steph, I think as the facilitator of breath, you should kick us off with number one.
Number one is breath. So, this is the foundation of everything in life. The way that you breathe determines how you feel, how healthy you are, how happy you are, how connected you are, how much in your body you live versus in your mind. And truthfully, most of us are breathing incorrectly. And most of us are breathing in a more short, shallow, disconnected, and oftentimes through the mouth, which really is a breeding ground for dis-ease in the body and disconnection and health struggles eventually. So when it comes to pleasure, when it comes to sex, intimacy, and just life, we really want to create this conscious connection with our breath, which is typically breathing in and out through our nose, ensuring that we're using our entire diaphragm to breathe and not breathing shallow into the chest. And when we can correct and retrain our body to breathe in a deep and connected way, filling up the belly, the rib cage, and the chest with each inhale and allowing the opposite to happen with each exhale, we find more peace. We start to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, where we allow states of calm and relaxation to be felt in the body. And that's really necessary for pleasure. That's really necessary for surrender. That is also going to be necessary for you to be able to experience a heightened state, climax, orgasm, and a deep connection with your partner. So, the first and most important is the breath and coming back into your breath. So, quickly now, invitation for you is to check in to notice how are you breathing in this moment. Can you close your eyes and simply observe without anything changing how you're breathing? Are you breathing in through your nose or in through your mouth? Are you breathing short and shallow into the chest? Or do you notice your belly inflating? Think of a puppy or an animal and also a baby, and think about how those little beings breathe. There is a full big expansion of that cute little belly, and then you see it deflating. And that's the optimal way that we want to be breathing. And it's important to reconnect with that way of breath in the body so that you can, again, feel that state of calm, reconnect, and that's going to allow you to expand and explore pleasure.
Yeah. And even just in a more simplified term too, we've all been there when we're in sex and we're holding our breath, right? You're not breathing, you're clenching, you are holding your breath, you're staying in one position to reach a climax or even just while you're in the experience. So what would it look like for you to actually bring more breath into your lungs, more breath into your body, breathe through the experience, and see with some curiosity and compassion for yourself how that changes your body, how that changes your pleasure response. If you're moving towards orgasm, what would it look like just to take a couple of deeper breaths and
Yeah,
play with that?
totally. I love to do that when I'm getting close to an orgasm. Instead of holding the breath or trying to really connect and almost force out that orgasm because you're so close and it feels so good, is to focus on the breath, close the eyes, really take full deep inhales for at least a 4 count in through the nose. And then I will sigh out through the mouth and allow it to be really slow and long. And when you do that, simply conscious connected in through the nose, big out through the mouth, just observe how the pleasure starts to shift in the body. And that is one of the keys to starting to experience more full bodied pleasure and orgasm in the body as well.
And you beautifully segued us into number two. Our second tool is sound. And you said that with your sigh, right? So if you're breathing and you're making that audible exhale with a sigh and letting it go, sound is really going to amplify you into the present moment. So it's going to drop you deeper into where you are right now, what you're doing, and it's going to bring you deeper into your body. If you're making sound and you're being in this current moment with what is alive, if it's a groan, if it's a grunt, if it's a sigh, an exhale, a moan, something else that's delicious or delightful or crunchy or whatever it is, right? Allowing some sound to move through you to bring you into deeper presence with your body.
Yeah. So, how can you give yourself permission to start to explore sound? It can be as simple as connecting with an intention of what would it feel like? What would it be like for me to allow sound to be expressed when I'm in a moment of pleasure? Maybe that starts with eating your food and being expressive with sound in every mouthful. Maybe then that goes into self pleasure, which can then lead into an experience with your partner. Just explore and give yourself that permission. And that really is where it starts, is as simple as that, to find safety in the expression and allowing yourself to be heard, which can be quite edgy and feel super vulnerable to connect with that. Because truly, when you're in that liberation and in full presence of the experience, wild and wacky sounds can start to come through you. And so, having that baseline of safety in your body, that it's safe to be seen, it's safe to be heard, and it's safe to sound, is going to be really important to allow yourself to go there in those moments. But there is so much pleasure that can be experienced through sound.
Yeah. And if it feels like a major edge, just start using sound in your everyday life, right? Where can you exhale? Where a little bit louder? Where can you take up space? Where can you moan or groan or be delighted by a bite that you ate that was delicious, right? Our ability to create sound is another form of taking up space. And for women, that can be really hard. So play with that edge of what would it look like for you to actually follow what your body desires to do with sound and see what comes out of that experience.
Yeah. Two final pieces to add on to that is sighing, giving yourself permission when you feel like you need a break. Just take a big breath in and then allow out a big sound or a sigh and just notice what that feels like and how that sounds. And the second piece is buy something really delicious that you know turns you on a little bit, turns on your senses. Maybe that is a little piece of dark chocolate or chocolate covered strawberry or something that feels quite sensual, that you know that you enjoy, and have a pleasure, sensory, sensual experience where you allow the sound to come through. You can do this completely by yourself. No one else has to be there. Play with that sound and see what is the authentic expression that can be released and that you can allow whilst enjoying that delicious piece of yumminess, whatever that is.
Yeah. And if you really have a hard time dropping out of your head and into your body, some sound and bringing in more breath is going to make this easier. It's going to make that transition feel smoother. It's the gateway into the body. So allowing yourself to take up space in the breath, take up space in the sound, and see where that leads you.
Yeah.
Amazing. And number 3, our final tool we have for you today that is going to help you drop in a free and simple way into a more pleasurable experience is the tool of movement. So, movement is personally my favorite way of dropping into the body. I do this through embodiment practices or through dance in my own room. And physiologically, when we're adding movement into sex or into pleasure, we're bringing blood into that area. So, specifically, hip movements in a moment of intimacy or in a moment of pleasure is really going to help bring blood down into the pelvis area. And that's going to make sensation amplified. So it's a straightforward way of bringing more presence and play and literal pulse of goodness into your genitals and into that area that you're experiencing sensation. And like I said earlier, it's easy to stiffen up and to become tense and to become like a board when you're trying to reach orgasm or a pleasure goal, especially in your solo practice. I know that's been my story and my experience. Where can you open things up? Where can you move your hips? Where can you arch your back? Where can you flow? Where can you stretch out? What does this look like for you, Steph?
I think it's really important to have that foundation of breath first to allow the movement to come through, because movement can be something that we can get a little bit in our head about it. And the way that most of us have grown up witnessing movement is in a structured and choreographed way that is to a beat and meets a certain goal. And the movement that we're talking about is really embodied and comes from within and is an expression of what is happening internally and the way that your body desires to move. So, trust and safety are two really important pieces with movement, to really trust your body that it is going to guide you and allow you to express in the way that is the most true to you, that is representing what is most alive inside of your body. And again, finding that safety to take up that space to be seen in movement can be really edgy and vulnerable, especially if there is an embodied story that it's not safe to be seen, which many women and humans have. So, connecting with the breath and finding that slowness and getting out of the head is really important first. For me, though, the movement comes from just being with my body and allowing it to just surprise me. So I really will take that approach of let me just trust, let me find safety and allow my body to surprise me and not judge in the way that it wants to be moved. So for me, that has really, or used to really start in my own pleasure practices, in my own space with a locked door where there was no one around me, because it was so edgy for me and so uncomfortable for me to be seen and to take up space, that it was a very long journey for me to allow myself to be seen. And I'm still exploring and finding new edges of that to this day. But it comes back to being in the body. And like Jenna said, moving those hips, opening up the body. I really like to ask my body, show me how you want to move. And I love doing different embodied movement practices on my yoga mat before getting into anything sexually pleasure related, to find that comfort and connection and trust. And now I'm able to be in a sexual experience in self pleasure or with a partner and can be surprised and delighted by the movement that wants to come through. And it's just really powerful to build that level, a deeper level of trust and awe within our body. Wow, this body really knows what she wants and knows how to move and knows where to take me to expand my pleasure without me having to use my thinking mind. Like there's so much wisdom inside of the body when we start to listen and start to trust and deepen that connection. magic really takes place.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I think you're describing is an embodiment practice, right? Of where you are just flowing with either music or no music, or almost what some folks would classify as ecstatic dance, too, right? Into a flow that is your body leading. And yes, definitely you need the breath to that for that not to feel clunky or like you're performing it, or
Yeah.
also just to drop out of the thinking mind of what's the next posture going to be, like what's the next movement going to be, and allow your body to lead. But if we simplify this even more into a sexual act, this can literally just look like shaking your ass. Like this can look like hinging your hips and shaking, or it can look like taking a different posture, right?
It could also be something like grinding or adding
Yeah.
in an extra layer of movement. So, for instance, if your partner is pleasuring you, how can you add movement in your body to potentially enhance or shift the experience? If you're pleasuring your partner, how can you add in a different way of moving to explore how it could shift or heighten your pleasure? Specifically, here as well, thinking about blowjobs and the way that we give pleasure to a man with a penis in that way. How can you switch it up to bring some movement into the body that maybe will allow you to experience even more pleasure in that giving process?
Yeah. So play with this, get curious. What would it look like for you to increase breath in your practice or in your sexual experiences or in your day to day life? What would it look like to increase the volume and allow yourself to sound? And what true movements want to come through your body? If you were to allow your body to be at the helm, to do the leading, what would your body want to do and what would offer it more pleasure? And it may feel a little bit awkward at first. You may feel like, oh my God, I'm really thinking this through. I'm really trying to sort this out in my mind before I allow my body to lead, but stay with it long enough that the body gets to be the driver and see how that changes your experience. And ultimately, let us know. Feel free to write us, tell us your takeaways, tell us your experiences with this practice. And if this is a part of your routine already, amplify it. Go ahead and see if you can meet a new edge here today that will allow you to have more pleasure, have a funner experience. I know
Yeah.
funner is not a word, but
It is now. And have no expectations. Release the expectations. Sometimes we can hear these things and go, okay, they've said breath and sound and movement, so let me try it once and I'm going to experience a full body orgasm. It's not going to work that way. It is a journey, it's a process. And
a
think about
practice.
having a light switch with a dimmer. It can be a journey. It's not just a switch that you flick on. You can slowly increase the volume or the connection, the light in that room bit by bit. Just think about every time you explore this, you're turning up the switch just a little bit higher. And then, yes, one day you'll get to where the lights are fully bright, which there's not a destination there. It's always a journey. But just know that it takes devotion to change your experience. So don't have this instant gratification sort of perspective going into this because you'll probably be disappointed if that's the way that you approach it. So just get curious and see if you can shift your experience by 1% the first time, the second time, the third time that you try this, and allow yourself to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, our bodies have muscle memory. So if you've been having sex predominantly one way for most of your life or self pleasuring kind of one way for most of your experience of self pleasuring, it's going to take a little practice to try something new. I know when I was trying to move away from tensing to orgasm to more spaciousness in my orgasm, it took a little work and there was a bit of frustration that lived there. But staying with it and staying dedicated to what could be on the other side of this is a really fun exploration if you stay with it. So that's the invitation here. Try it on and leave behind anything that doesn't feel right to you.
Yes. Enjoy.
Okay, thanks for hanging out with us for another episode of Pleasure Playbook, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye, bitches. Love you all. Goodbye.